Welcome back to Lucia to Newsmaker Live. Our very special guest this evening is Police Commissioner Vernon Francois, who was appointed on May 1st, 2012 by a letter from Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Paulette Louise. Commissioner, we were talking about the constitutional changes that might be taking place or that you have proposed, not only constitutional but organizational changes. Re-enlistment, for example, is one, and you have listed a couple of others. But when we deal with politicians, I don't want to put you on the spot, but probably I will have to. I mean, you hear a lot of talk, a lot of grandiose plans, a lot of good ideas, but none of those, or most of those, don't seem to take root. You have had discussions so far. How confident are you that, you know, some of those plans that you have had and discussions that you've had will actually bear fruit?
Well, I'm extremely confident. I have a very aggressive minister at the moment who I think he has a background in law because he was an attorney general for a while on St. Lucia. So I think he's somebody who's prepared to push the agenda of change in the police department, organizational change, and I suppose legislation is one significant component of it. And he's the one, he keeps reminding me of, you know, the work of the committee that we have in place to deal with the Police Act. And even with my discussions with the Prime Minister also, he has identified that as a matter of priority. So I think I am very confident that we will have a functioning Police Act in due course, and I think the other legislative changes that we are looking at, because it's all a matter of, and that's the way I've been trying to run the police department, that we have a regular policy committee meeting, so we meet every week. So we look at different issues, you know, to see how we can make the organization a better place. And I suppose, so we put together our plans, our policies, we make our submissions to our ministry, and generally, you know, I think that manner of doing business will work for us in a very good way.
Now, you talk about the committee. Who is on that committee?
Well, it comprises the commissioners, assistant commissioner, deputy commissioners, myself, and our administrative officer, who is civilian.
Oh, that's the only civilian on there. But don't you think that for such a committee, looking at the Police Act, seeing that the police have so much interaction with the public, that there should be a little bit more public input, at least on the committee?
What the policy committee I referred is just our normal policy committee, but there is actually a committee in place within the police department, which is separate and apart from the officers I mentioned. It's actually chaired by one assistant commissioner of police, but it is separate and apart from our normal policy committee. I think the way it's going to be dealt with is that as police officers, we are going to make our submissions as to what we would like to see in a police act. So I suppose there'll be another stage where the members of the public maybe will be asked to have their input in what should be in a police act. So I think that's, I guess, the way there. But at the moment, what they've done is to ask us, instead of maybe the traditional way of hiring a consultant and to have, you know, a document imposed on you, we are being asked in the police department to make our submissions as to what is it we would like to see in a police act. And I think that is a very great way of doing business, really.
Yeah, I think it's a much better way, because usually you hire consultants, you pay them a whole bunch of money, and then the report just remains on the shelf, and nobody even bothers to dust it out once in a while to say, oh, well, we paid so much, so let's at least keep it dust free. So I guess that would be interesting to see. And is there a time frame for that to happen, based on your discussion?
Well, there seems to be an interest on the part of the government to see a police act in place by year end. And for our part, we are working in terms of the committee making their submissions to the ministry, I suppose, for onward transmission to the AG's office. And I think it's something that it is actually, as they say, on the front burner, you know, and I think it's very important to us that we realize a new police act, which will really help us in more ways than one, really. So.
Now, talking about the Police Act, I would imagine that part of that act would include compensation for officers who are hurt and for the families of those who die while they're on the job. I know that is a really touchy issue for police officers right now. How much consideration has been given to that aspect of it?
Well, what we're hoping to do is to incorporate it. I suppose the legal people will know how to deal with it, but in terms of incorporating it into our police act, because at the moment there is actually a protective services compensation legislation in place, although it is not working for us as we really would like it to work, because there is an issue of putting a board in place to determine compensation and determining various cases, and that too, I don't know that is working, that is functioning properly at the moment. But there is already legislation in place, but I rather suspect it might be better for us if we work it into a new police act, so that I guess whatever issues that we have with the current legislation will be resolved.
Now, going on to an issue that is capturing the minds of St. Lucians, and that relates to children. There seems to be a real problem, especially in the city, as it relates to loitering. And from my limited understanding of the law, I know that it is illegal. It's an illegal act for people to congregate without your sanctioning, and I'm sure you don't sanction a whole bunch of school children after they leave school hanging out in the boulevard or wherever they do hang out. A statement was issued from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force concerning that issue, and a very strong statement indicating that children will be arrested if they are found loitering. I mean, is that the introduction that you want to have as Commissioner?
Well, it's not really anything new, really. I mean, any time that there is a breach of the laws of St. Lucia, we propose to enforce the law. That is our job. And if loitering is covered as part of the laws of St. Lucia, and there is evidence of people breaking the law, then we have to deal with it. So it's not really any introduction for me into anything. It's really just something that we've been dealing with for over 2 years, really, the issue of loitering, and particularly as it relates to children. Having said that, really, I'm not sure that the plan is for us to go on a wholesale manner and arrest kids and throw them in jail and things like that. That's definitely not the plan, really. I think the way we have tackled this issue in the past, and we propose to still continue along that line, is for us to work with, and we've done it through our community relations branch. They have direct contact with the schools, so that they can go off to the schools and speak to the students about the issues surrounding loitering and how they can put their time into more constructive use and different things like that. And for them also to be out on the streets, so in the event that the kids are loitering, so these officers will be known by the police officers, and vice versa. And but there's also a significant component of that: the role of the parents, the role of teachers, the role of society generally. We need to it should not be just a police function to deal with in terms of loitering on the streets, because I mean it is, kids will be kids, most definitely. And but I suppose it's going to be a better society for us if these kids put their time into more constructive use, because there's this issue of being idle and what have you. So if we can channel their energies, their time into more so that is basically, I guess, the way the police department is looking at it. And I mean, if there is like I said, if there are laws and people choose to break the law, then we have to deal with it. But the interest of the police department definitely is for us to see how young people in St. Lucia can put their time into more constructive use. And that is not to say that they should not be permitted to walk the streets of Castries or the streets of St. Lucia or what have you, because that is a natural thing for kids. But if as a society we keep looking at ways and means of getting our kids to put their time, their spare time, into more constructive use, that is going to be a better issue for the entire country. I
mean, there are so many social issues wrapped up in that. Looking at, on a Friday, for example, you can, there's a deluge of students you know, just in the middle of town. They would not give you a place to pass if you try to pass through. They're just on their own business. And I am seeing that coupled with the new fad for young people to be walking in town with a plastic cup in their hand with alcohol. I mean, are these some of the things that the police department might want to monitor or is concerned about, you know, as far as the influence spreading, and with all the delinquency we have seen, you know, and even delinquency within the schools where these bad habits are brought into the school?
Yeah, that is of extreme concern to us. You raised the issue of alcohol, and I mean, it is illegal at the moment for somebody to sell alcohol to kids. And if we have any evidence to suggest, if we, not evidence because we know it is happening, but really just need to put systems in place to ensure that we deal with the people who are involved in selling the alcohol to the kids. But again, it's just not constructive really for children to be walking the streets or even consuming alcohol. Really, it's not going to be a positive thing for our society. So I think as law enforcement, we are trying to be proactive. We are trying to prevent situations from developing. So in the event that maybe if a child has consumed alcohol or just been on the streets, maybe there's a greater opportunity for them to get into some sort of trouble. And then at some point, you know, people expect it's the police that is to respond to it. So if there is a stabbing involving a child, then it becomes a police problem. So I think it's important for us to be proactive. We are prepared to work with other agencies. We are prepared to work with the school system. We are prepared to work with parents to find meaningful solutions to this problem. And it's not something that we really want to, as police officers, say, let us just, you know, like I said, take punitive measures against the kids, because kids will be kids. But I think it is a problem. We need to identify it as a problem. And I'm prepared to work with other agencies and other people in order to deal with it.
But talking about the children and talking about the parents, I mean, that's a whole different thing. And when we look at these issues, you also have to look at the parents and their responsibility or lack thereof. What can the police do? What kind of responsibility can the police put on the parents to ensure that their children are not being delinquent? And if their children are being delinquent, that, you know, probably they take responsibility and pay the price or some price.
Well, there is a piece of legislation, Children and Young Persons Act concerned, Lucia, which places a degree of responsibility on parents, you know, for the care and protection of their children. So I suppose it's a matter of that, again, can be enforced. But I rather suspect a better solution for us would be education, that the parents need to understand, you know, the issues surrounding, you know, if you your kids are, you know, somewhere and you don't know where they are, or they are loitering on the streets, they are in a situation, you know, where it can endanger their lives and what have you. I suppose there is enforcement through the Children and Young Persons Act, but there is a bigger element to me of education for the kids, for the parents to exercise a degree of control over the kids.
Well, you sound more like a social worker than a police officer on this thing, and I want to pick your brain on some more social issues. But we'll take a break right now on Newsmaker Live. We're speaking here with the Commissioner of Police, Vernon Francois. We'll continue our discussion right after these messages. Stay tuned.